Hey, what's up guys, CBK here to bring you another Marvel Spider-Man 2 video. And in today's video, I wanted to get into what features Insomniac could take from the classic Spider-Man Web of Shadows game to adapt into Spider-Man 2. If you ask any Spidey gamer out there, most of them would say that Web of Shadows set the standard for combat and web swinging in future Spider-Man games. And I would tend to agree with that. I feel like Web of Shadows was definitely ahead of its time and is among some of the best combat we have seen from a Spider-Man game. Don't get me wrong, I still think that Marvel Spider-Man is an absolute masterpiece of a game, but there is without a doubt some things that can be improved on for the sequel game. There's definitely a lot of inspiration Insomniac games could take from Web of Shadows, specifically to how the Black Suit could play out within their own game. Being that this is the first time Insomniac will be delving into the Symbiote Suit storyline, I feel like they should look at Web of Shadows to see what worked well and build upon it, and what they should stay away from in terms of mechanics and features. And of course, I do want to see Insomniac add in their own flair and features for their interpretation of the symbiote Spider-Man. But with all of that said, let's go ahead and swing on into my list of features that I would love to see Insomniac adapt from Spider-Man Web of Shadows. And to start things off, I want to dive on into the web striking system for Web of Shadows. Spider-Man Web of Shadows absolutely nailed the web striking for Spider-Man. Marvel Spider-Man had web striking within their combat system, but it wasn't nearly as fast and fluid as Web of Shadows. In Web of Shadows, you could zip from enemy to enemy with intense speed, essentially ping-ponging off of enemies with ease. Spider-Man could zip to enemies and sling them around, or zip right back to them and kick himself off of them. The web striking also made the air combat so much more fun. I don't want to sound like I'm ripping on Spider-Man PS4, but the web strikes in that game were a little too slow for me. I want the speed of combat to be enhanced for Marvel Spider-Man 2, and upgrading the web striking system would be a great start for that. The next thing I would love to see implemented that I thought Web of Shadows did a great job on is the ability to switch between your normal Spider-Man self and the symbiote Spider-Man. It was such a cool feature to have. You could run around as your normal Spider-Man self and seamlessly transition to the symbiote Spider-Man wherever you are, and use all of the symbiote abilities you want at that given time. Given the PS5's ability to effortlessly render things, I think it would be amazing to see the suit switch over in real time from a graphical standpoint. This isn't a feature that will monumentally change or enhance the gameplay, but I think it would just be a cool addition to have. The next feature I would love to see from Web of Shadows implemented into Marvel Spider-Man 2 is wall combat. Now, this would mean that there would need to be some sort of wall crawling enemy types, and I feel like Venom and any other symbiote entities would fit that description perfectly. Imagine fighting Venom on the side of a building for a boss battle, while it's storming outside, and then there's some dark and menacing styled music being played in the background. That would be epic. And I'm not talking about the type of wall combat that we got in the final battle with Doc Ock in the first game. That was more of a cinematic fight, if anything. I want some real combat on buildings. The only thing they would need to do is nail the camera work when performing wall combat. I always thought that Web of Shadows camera work was a little shaky while performing wall combat, but I have no doubt that Insomniac could give us some really good wall combat. Please, Insomniac, make it happen. Next up, we have to talk about the Web of Shadows swinging speed. This game had some insanely fast-paced swinging. If you were skilled enough, it was almost too fast. I don't need crazy speeds, but I do want to adapt how Web of Shadows really explored Spider-Man's momentum within swings. If you timed your swings just right, you could build up some insane speeds that would really propel you forward. Given that the PS5 will be able to render the New York City environment quickly, I don't see any reason why we can't have faster web swinging. Along with swinging, I would love the ability to run down walls, just like in Web of Shadows, and I would also love to see fall damage included, just like in Web of Shadows. The fall damage wouldn't completely take out your health, but it would still affect you a little bit, and I get the argument against this. He is Spider-Man, he should be capable of surviving a fall from up high, and I agree, it shouldn't kill you if you fall from a building, but you should receive some sort of small damage. I mean, if a random thug can give you a punch and knock off some of your health, then a fall from hundreds of feet should also knock down your health, even if it's only a little bit, but that's just my opinion. So lastly, we have a bit of a smaller feature, but I think it would add something to the street crimes. I loved that you could take hurt civilians to a hospital in Web of Shadows. I would love to see this implemented into Marvel Spider-Man 2. Perhaps after fighting a group of thugs who have just tried to complete a mugging, you could take a hurt civilian to the nearest EMS on the streets or take them to a nearby hospital. I think it would just add something to the street crimes. The street crimes were severely lacking variety in Marvel's Spider-Man, and I feel like swinging the occasional civilian to the nearest hospital would just add something a little bit different. So guys, that's it for my list of features from Web of Shadows. I would love to see Insomniac adapt for Marvel Spider-Man 2. I'm sure I left out some of your favorites, so be sure to share your list in the comments section down below. I appreciate you guys so much for the support, and I just love making these videos to help get us hyped for Marvel Spider-Man 2. But that's it for me, and until next time, I'll see you guys later.